Good afternoon, everybody. This is your favorite Pokemon player of all time, GGFan. Some people love me, some people hate me, some people don't give two shits about me. However you feel, I'm here with another video. Today, I'm finally going to address the Smogon slander that was posted on Reddit. I have never read this thread. I knew of its existence. This was written by an angry Smogon. I did know that the person who wrote this thread was a brand new account who claimed to know a troll named GGFan in 2005. This was an empty Smogon plant. Now, as some of you are aware, I have been banned from Smogon for over 20 years. This is because of my involvement, or not just involvement. I was the catalyst of the infamous GameFAQs Wars that left a trail of destruction. Thousands of accounts were perished, mostly my own. Insults were hurled, threats were made. It was a horrible time. It was an atrocity. But now here we are in Halcyon times. A lifetime has gone by since then. Nonetheless, I am still banned. People to this day despise me. I hurt people's feelings 20 years before they were born, this individual included, who spends 20 hours of his day in the Smogon universe. I say 20 and not 24 because these people do need a little bit of time to sleep and jerk off. So here he has written this thread. Now, again, I've never read it, but I did prepare a few things because I have an inkling of what he will say. He's going to say that I had thousands of alternate accounts, and just given by the title, a one-man clashed with the competitive Pokemon RBY community for 17 years. This is obviously a partisan account. It's going to vilify me. I got banned from Smogon over 20 years ago. I did nothing. I came back, got banned again for being racist. More alternate accounts. I have an idea of what will be said, so I did prepare some tabs here. They'll come in handy. I'm pretty sure they'll come in handy. I just want to show people, what I did after getting banned from Smogon the first time. Right off the bat, I need to address something, that being the title. 17 years. Now, the infamous GameFAQs Wars, that was 2 years. That was from 2003 to 2005. I got banned from Smogon. There was friction between me and the early Smogon people. But then, I'd say by 2007, I didn't really interact with them anymore. I kind of moved on. I played elsewhere. The competitive scene was thriving. One thing you have to remember is that back then, Smogon was just a territory like any other. You didn't really have to play there. In fact, there were competitive entities that were more active than Smogon. One of them was Pokemon Experta. Played here for a bit. This was actually at one time the largest competitive entity in the world. Even though it was a regional territory, I played here for a while. I played in the now defunct Pokefans. I played here for about 4 years. It was the successor to Pokemon Experta. I did have my own competitive red, blue, yellow Pokemon community. It was called The Alternative. I played on Pokemon Perfect for about half a decade. I played on the old RBY 2K10 community, which died eons ago. I played in Pokemon Online. I was active on the ladder. I won the Pokemon Online Championship League. So I've always been around, but I think, the Smodrones espouse this narrative that I got banned, and then I came back after doing nothing and got banned again for being an evil racist. And my second ban, is something I will dedicate a video to. I will address it when the time comes. So this, I already know this is going to be a very partisan narrative. That's okay. I saw it coming. I've addressed that. And one thing, I guess I should point out that I did not prepare this video. This was not rehearsed. I'm just jumping into it. I think it's more fun that way. So anyways, let's read it. Here's the foreword. Okay, I'm sure you did. I'm sure you heard about me in 2005, 2006, empty account with no posts. I went around antagonizing with this army of alt accounts. I have written a book about the GameFAQs Wars. It's included in the description of this video. Check it out. It's free. It's a free ebook. You can download it. I've received very positive feedback. I recently read through it, and I do think it could be better. You know, I kind of stayed in character a little bit, but I was very honest about the things that transpired and the things I did. It's a very detailed account, though. If you want to know everything that happened, it's all in that book. Give it a read. Let me know what you think, too. Around 2010, 2010, again, let me show you. I had the alternative. Wow. I honestly, it's been a long time since I've been on this proboard. I made this way back in 2005. This is a real blast from the past. I think it's here. The Unforgettable. This is where most of the anti-Smogon slander was posted. And you can see it's like 2006, 2007. This is all silly stuff. Homophobic slur back then. It was the norm back then. Silly stuff. Every now and then I make a post, but yeah, Unforgettable Comedy Hour. I think there's some slander here too. Yeah, 2007, 2009. I don't think this even had anything to do with Smogon. This was GameFAQs. I didn't really interact with Smogon all that much. I disappeared, but again, I was playing. I was very active in Pokemon Experta. It had a very active tour circuit, Hall of Fame, leaderboard, great player base, etc. Played here. I had the alternative. The alternative was a small community that specialized in red, blue, yellow. At the time, ADV was the current gen. A lot of attention was not given to RBY. Most people didn't care. So I made the alternative. This was actually the first community to have analyses for every fully evolved Pokemon. Several analyses on Smogon's website were missing. I know, for example, there was no analysis for Raichu. There was none for Gyarados. I think Wigglytuff was missing. So this was the first one. You can see there are quite a few views. I'm actually surprised how many there are. So back then, this was kind of a resource for some people. Pokemon Experta used the same rule set that I had on the alternative. So, for example, on the alternative, rap was banned. Pokemon Experta decided to do the same thing. So, 2010 again, I'd say by 2007 I didn't really interact with the early Smogon degenerates anymore. My student matured and put his old ways behind him. Imagine my surprise. He had been getting into fights until recently. Actually made a website chronicling his adventures. Now, my website was called the GGFan Experience. I posted resources on the GGFan Experience. Things like a ladder guide. It was a guide to help people perform better on the ladder. I posted a resource that detailed the critical hit ratio for every single Pokemon in the game. That had never been done before. I posted interviews with a lot of Gen 1 players. I had a Q&A section. I had war stories. War stories are basically detailed accounts of my a detailed account of one's game. I would later post these resources on something called Old Gen Archives, which is a pro board I made last year. That's also, the link for Old Gen Archives is also in the description. Check it out. Chronicling his adventures, you know, this is a very condescending tone. Not surprised. Getting into fights until recently. I mean, after Smogon, not really. Nothing really happened, to be honest. I played a lot. That's really about it. I was just an active competitive player. This is the story of a man who managed to get and receive countless bans from Pokemon forums for over a decade. Now, the common narrative by Speedruns is that I was banned everywhere. Now, Pokemon Experta, I was GGFan. In fact, I posted here last year. I was surprised to see that Pokemon Experta is still alive. Well, alive, I say it very loosely. Martin is the owner now. Martin has expressed a desire to close the shut down Pokemon Experta. Where is the thread? I posted last year. Oh, here it is. Ich habe nicht mehr genug Kraft. Okay, I posted here. And look, people are still posting. Wow. I posted here last year as GGFan. Jetzt ist es also passiert. Mit diesen Worten hat der aktuelle Papst Benedikt made a very passionate post. Go down. So I was, yeah, there it is. So GGFan, you can see 2006. I made this account. This is actually not true though. I think something happened to my first account. Because I started posting here in, I'd say June. Because the war story of my gaming is Peter Pan. That was like June or July. So I probably had another account, but I forgot the login information. But this one, GGFan, 283 messages, 2006, Wohnort, Vereinigten Staaten, registriert, Beiträge. I posted here. You can see my mediocre German. And people actually posted afterwards. Ich bin froh, dass es PI immer noch gibt in Kirche A. Kaum etwas hat mich in meiner Jugend so sehr geprägt wie Pokémon und meine Zeit hier auf PI. Einige Freundschaften, die ich hier geschlossen habe, überdauern im Real Life bis heute. Wow, that's very powerful. So yeah, anyways, you can see I've had this account since 2006. Pokemon Perfect. I made my account in 2013. I haven't been on this forum in a very long time. I stopped playing here years ago. But people still post every now and then, I guess. Yeah. There's Orthior. Wow, RBY veteran Orthior still hanging in there. He's been around for a long time. 2013. I made my account around the same time he did. Oh, he says he gives me a name. He gives me a shout out. Here we go. PO ladder. He mentions the PO ladder. GGFan Marco Chris. So I was very active on the PO. PO is short for Pokemon Online. I played on its ladder for quite a while. What else? Pokemon. Pokefans.net is dead. I was GGFan here. I played here for 4 years. So I was never banned anywhere. RBY2K10, I was there. RBY2K10, I will admit, I suicided my account because, quite frankly, I found the owners to be detestable people. I was just tired of it. I did a humorous account suicide, but besides that, I was always GGFan. I was GGFan here, Pokemon Experta, Pokefans, Pokemon Perfect, Pokemon Online, even smaller forums that I can't. Pallet Town was a Dutch forum. I played there as GGFan. Net Battle Italiano had an account there. I was always GGFan. I was never banned. I was only banned from Smogon. So anyways, he's the grandfather. Yeah, I kind of, now I won't say I invented it, but, you know, back then there was a dearth of resources. People did not know how to tackle a speedrun. Now, there's somebody by the name of Jolt135 or R. Jones. You might be able to find a few of his videos floating around in the YouTube galaxy. Originally, he conceptualized something called the 90-minute blitz. That meant you attempted to get as far as you could in 90 minutes. Because back then, beating the game was out of the question. It was just too long. You couldn't beat the game in 90 minutes. But I had qualms with Jolt135's assertion that you couldn't speedrun the game. I felt that maybe you couldn't do it in 90 minutes, but, you know, it wouldn't take 7 or 8 hours. The perception back then was that Pokemon Red, Blue, Yellow was just too arduous of a game to beat in a feasible amount of time. It would take several hours. So I started doing speed runs. I experimented, and I figured out that, you know, if you just use Squirtle and catch Zapdos at the end, you could beat the game relatively quickly. I ended up beating Pokemon Blue in 3 hours and 7 minutes. This was seen as the first official world record. Now, it wasn't official in the sense that it was timed, but I wrote a walkthrough for it that's still on GameFAQs to this day. I've also shared the link for it in the video description. Much later on, not much later, maybe about a year later, this record was broken by Cygnus, Mike Cygnus Goldberg. He met me on the alternative, actually. He found me on the alternative. He asked me questions about speedrunning, and Cygnus actually played in a few of the tournaments that I hosted here on the alternative. Cygnus would refine the speedrun. He set the new world record. I believe he beat Blue in something like 2 minutes and 42 seconds. Still using Squirtle, but he used the Pokédog glitch. I didn't know that existed at the time. I wasn't cognizant of the Pokédog glitch. I'm not even sure I took advantage of Red Bar. So he used the Pokédog glitch. Squirtle was the standard until about 2010 or so. That's when people started using Nidoran M, and now the record is something crazy. It's like 1 hour and 40 minutes, which is just over 90 minutes. So the 90-minute blitz, you could beat practically the entire game in 90 minutes now. How far we've come. We've come so far over the last 20 years. The GameFAQs years, I wrote a book about this, by the way. Just want to point that again. I wasn't a part of the community yet I am very partisan. I'm very angry. I am an angry snowdrone. Okay. Yeah, just take it with a grain of salt. I'm clearly full of it. Even though I supplement what I say with logs, I've been around for almost a quarter of a century. Everything I say is backed up with concrete evidence. Okay, many millennials. So I don't understand this tone. I don't know what he's trying to achieve here. Like, yes, I'm a millennial. Categorizing me as a millennial, I don't know what that accomplishes. Okay, that's hilarious. It's about as funny as your sex life, I guess. Now that we're in the realm of dumb jokes. So here you go. GGFan discovered Pokemon. Quickly came. I love Pokemon. Admittingly, it was my favorite game, like many other people. Yeah, I was. 2002. I actually joined the GameFAQs forums a year before that. Now, back then, I used to peruse the Pokemon Gold message board. Pokemon Gold is my favorite game of all time. I really wanted to play competitive Gold, Silver, Crystal. Back then, people used a simulator called Mirc, M-I-R-C. It wasn't intuitive at all. It was a text-based simulator, which meant you had to input commands for every single thing you wanted to do. Moreover, a lot of people just didn't have a computer that was powerful enough to run it very well. I could not use Merc. So a year later in 2002, I discovered the Azure Heights Pokemon Battle Simulator. However, it only supported Red, Blue, Yellow. So I started playing competitive Red, Blue, Yellow in 2002. Okay. There was no central hub. Okay, yeah, I mean, I can't really dispute that. Use that. I don't know if it's still running. I know the forums are down. I haven't tried to use the simulator, though. GGFan Quick Lake, a decent battler. I mean, decent, you know, even, I'll say this, like, I don't think I was very good at the beginning. Looking back, like, my first year playing, I was bad. I'd say I became decent. I had to play for at least a year before I even approached that level. Decent. However, he had a big ego. You know, like, you're saying this like I was malicious. I was a very young teenager. I started playing in tours 23 years ago. I was 13. And everybody around me was very toxic. Again, I wrote about all this in my book, but, you know, in case you just don't want to read a book, you know, the community well, it's always been toxic. It's always been elitist. It was just as toxic then as it is now. In some ways, it was worse, I suppose. I can still remember, for example, being on I believe it was the Pokemon Yellow board on GameFAQs. There was this person, I think his name was Masamune or something, and he had a Rate My Team thread, and I asked him, hey, you know, why should Snorlax have both Body Slam and Hyper Beam? And he goes, what, are you stupid? You know, because blah, 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 blah. I didn't know. I wasn't challenging him. I just didn't know why you'd want those two moves on Snorlax. There was another one named Psystorm. He was really out of touch. He had a big ego, but he also had clout. Therefore, you know, what he said was treated as gospel. People would dogpile me, you know, shut up, GGFan. Psystorm, he's the better, he knows what he's doing. You're just, you know, you're noob. You gotta pay your dues on the internet. So he would say things like, you know, why are you using Seismic Toss on Alakazam? Use Reflect. Like, well, you know, Seismic Toss is the norm on Alakazam to this day. He even said that Explosion on Golem was noobish, that's a load of shit. Explosion is the only reason you use Golem. So he was really out of touch. You know, now I created a character. You know, I wanted to have a big ego. That was the idea. I wanted to satirize the climate of that community, which I think clearly I did it very well, because, you know, here we are, you know, 23 years later talking about it. So yes, okay, things only got worse. What happened was, I was down 6-1. It was Slowbro swept his whole team. He said he could beat me, issued an open challenge, and he lost. I mean, so, you know, he was the one who opened his mouth, and he lost. 2003, blah, 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 multi-gen. Now, this kind of thing happens today. You know, I'm not the only one who has complained about cronyism in the competitive Pokemon world. It happens a lot in SPL. You know, it's interesting. I think many years later, maybe 2016, I ran into someone named David Kirk. David Kirk also played in this era, and I had an interview with him. He echoed the same sentiment. He disliked the cronyism and the elitism that was ubiquitous in the competitive world at this time. I wasn't the only one who was upset. And again, I'm 14 at this time, very young. Come on, GGFan went ballistic. Again, you know, for someone who doesn't know me, you're just very judgmental. whatever, man. I went ballistic. I criticized it. I was critical of it. And, again, today people still complain about this kind of thing. He beat a big name battle. I did fake a log. This person was very high in the totem pole. He was very egotistical in his own right. I mean, but again, this was a meaningless game. I was 14 years old. And, I think to magnetize something so meaningless in defense of Smogon, which at the time, Smogon was known as Smogon's Nazi Empire, and the mascot was coughing with Hitler's mustache. But we'll magnetize something so meaningless, something so childish that I did when I was a very young teenager. A pariah. He started to make... Now, the alt accounts, again, I talk about this in my book, but the alt accounts were made to satirize the climate. So the alt accounts I would just say, GGFan rules. GGFan is the best of all time. If you don't think GGFan is good, you suck. Little childish bullshit that I did. We're all young people doing silly things on the internet, as we've all done. I mean, you did it. This is silly. This is worse than what I did. Now we are talking. These were deliberately fake. They were silly little tours. I would say things like, if you post in this thread, you're automatically in the tour and you're going to lose. Don't do it. And they'd post anyway. This is all silly. I don't know. Was banned. Yeah, I got banned a lot. Eventually, this is when I really went off the deep end. I'm not the only person who has been critical of Smogon. But it's like anybody who criticizes it is crazy. They're on a crusade. This is the Smodrone narrative, whatever. Early website. Well, it was a website named Smogon's Nazi Empire, by the way. It had the novel idea of create comprehensive for every fully evolved Pokemon. Not for RBY. The owners of the website. No, they didn't. So NetBattle was an independent entity. It had no affiliation with Smogon whatsoever. Smogon had a server. The Smogon server was the largest server, but the Smogon server didn't surface until 2005. NetBattle had been around for a couple of years by that point. The largest server on NetBattle was Blue Heaven. That was the largest server in the beginning. Smogon didn't surface until later, so this is not entirely accurate. Well, this is the Smogon narrative. Again, it did not. Smogon was a territory like any other. You didn't have to play there. Nowadays, Smogon is the epicenter of the Pokemon universe because it appropriated the simulator Pokemon Showdown, but NetBattle had no affiliation with it. So, for example, I played here, Pokemon Experta. This at the time was a larger forum than Smogon. It had a thriving tour scene. They had their own analyses, their own Pokedex. They had their own resources, their own tiers. A lot of players back then never used Smogon. And Pokemon Experta was not the only territory. You had Pokemon Experta. PokeRealm. PokeRealm was a viable alternative. They had their own tiers and analyses. NetBattle Italiano, PokeFrance, Pallet Town. Later, PokeFans, Bizaboards. Smogon was a territory. You did not have to play there. So this is the Smogon narrative. Or maybe just ignorance, maybe it's just ignorance. I don't think it is. This is just clearly a very partisan account. I find though. GGFan quickly moved on to Smogon. So here's the thing. My first ban goes all the way back to January of 2005. I made one post on Smogon. there was some kind of RBY tour, and I wrote a sign-up post. I got banned. Chaos was the owner of Smogon's Nazi Empire at the time. Later in another thread, he would write, "Fuck you, N-word," in this thread. I presume he removed it. But I had one post on Smogon. I never played there. I never tried to play there. I would go on the Smogon server on NetBattle for RBY games under alts, just to face their players. And one time I had something called the 2005 Smogon Tour. I won 9 games in a row against the Smogon players, posted the logs, much to their umbrage. That made them mad. But I never tried to be an active presence in Smogon. Again, you didn't have to play there. It was just a territory like any other. While online trolls were a dime, he stuck out like, again, one post on Smogon, vowing to take them down. I have no idea what this is alluding to. You know, like, I would shit on Smogon. Just silly shit. Let me see. Let me go back and reminisce. Not reminisce, I don't care, but The Unforgettable, I had the Smogon story. A lot of views, wow. I had this. You know, Smogon slandered me. I slandered Smogon. The 2005 Smogon tour, I posted this. This made them mad. They didn't like it. I beat their players. One of them was, I remember Warthog was one of them. And they really liked Warthog. He was touted as the best RBY player. I beat him in a game. He got mad. I told him who I was, and he responded by banning me. And yeah, but yeah, again, I don't. Vowing to take down Smogon. Shut the fuck up, Smogon. Hypocrites. Just silly things. Yeah, they claim they gave me a virus once. I don't know where that came from. I just wanted them to know they didn't give me one. That's it. These are just a few threads. Again, 2006, 2005. This is the Smodro narrative that I wanted to kill them. You know, I focused my energies elsewhere. 2005 was a lot edgier. Again, I don't know where this came from. They installed a virus onto my computer. Well, they thought they did. I never happened. And I don't know why you would be proud of this. Like, you're saying this like it's a good thing. Yeah, he did it. I was still a minor, too. I mean, also, these people were much older than me. You know, one of them was Vinian. Now, I won't say that Vinian was a pedophile. Maybe he was just being an asshole, but Vinian had a sock puppet called Sweet Mauda. With this sock puppet, he tried to obtain my personal information, my IP address, particularly. He flirted with me with the sock puppet. I just ignored it and blocked it. And I found out he was Sweet Mauda because I just happened to be on the Smogon server and caught him talking shit, saying that he was trying to get me with Sweet Mauda. But they don't tell you that. They don't tell you that Chaos wrote "fuck you" N-word. Chaos is one of the few people who I could safely assume was actually racist back. You know, back then everybody was saying the N-word, but he really loved to say that word. He used it very gratuitously. He would replace people's posts with the caricature of a black person that said "Enjo's tar soap." Now, this was 20 years ago. We all grew up. I'm not saying Chaos hasn't changed, but back then he was a vile individual. But this doesn't get talked about. We sweep that under the rug. Smogon, the name Smogon is an allusion to genocide. The original name was Smogon's Nazi Empire. It's an allusion to the gas chamber poison. One of the founders of Smogon, maybe not the founders, but one of its most prominent members was somebody named Rice Pigeon KKK, a neo-Nazi, or at least he seemed that way. They loved 4chan. They would always talk about 4chan. Now, 4chan, as any sane person knows, is a bastion of depravity. Even back then, I knew to stay away from 4chan. That is just a breeding ground of incels and very miserable people who genuinely have nothing going on in their lives. They were all active there. Smogon, the thread. Now, the thread about me, again, it was written by Vinian, who I just described. Vinian was much older than me. Vinian was the one who told Chaos to ban me the first time. And Vinian was mad because when I was very young, at the age of 14, he asked me, who do you think the best player is? And I said, well, it's me. I'm the best, of course. He was so mad about this that he hated me. Right? Vinian was very elitist. And, you know, I'm not the only person who said this. I did an interview with someone named Don Swades, or otherwise known as the Legend Mac. He used to play on the GameFAQs territory. In fact, I have an idea of who he used to be back then, and he shared stories about Vinian that aligned with what I said about him and what I'm saying about him now. Again, maybe Vinian's changed. I don't know. It's all 20 years ago. I bear no grudges against these people. You know, I'd like to hope that they've grown up. But, you know, again, we have Smodrones bringing this up. So, obviously, they're still bothered by it because I'm banned from their universe. And in this thread, by the way, I will make a video about this thread. I will address it when the time comes. This is the same thread where Chaos said, fuck you, N-word, which I presume has been omitted. GGFan was banned again. It was not the hub. I played elsewhere. RBY2K10, Pokemon Online, etc. Well, I mean, Smogon did it. They made threads about me. He made a subforum devoted to lashing out that banned him. You couldn't really get banned from GameFAQs, though. I mean, GameFAQs, you know, you could just make a new account. So, you know, I haven't been banned from GameFAQs in a lifetime. I have an account with thousands and thousands of karma points, and I was never banned anywhere else I played. You know, yeah, the alternative. Well, it was called the alternative because at the time, ADV was the current gen. There was nothing for RBY, so I called it the alternative. I guess it was an alternative to Smogon because there was nothing for RBY there. So yes, I did have analyses. I had tournaments. Now, a lot of the players here came from GameFAQs. I know Yellow was from GameFAQs. Sam the Digital was originally from GameFAQs. Slayer was from the Net Battle forums. But yeah, we hosted tours. It was a fun little place to play. You know, I had a Net Battle server. Hosted tours. Got to play RBY at a pretty regular basis, which was fun. The board itself, again, most of them, well, a lot of them were from GameFAQs. Sam the Digital, Yellow, Slayer was from Net Battle. Icy was the founder of RBY2K10. He was kind of an asshole, though. Zardcore Mike was from GameFAQs. A couple of them were from Smogon. I also had a section for RSC and GSC, which I forgot about. Flameout was from GameFAQs. Flameout was a tour player. Borat, a very miserable human being. Fuck you, Borat, by the way. Hopefully you've changed, but back then, you were a piece of work. Fuck you for the grief you gave me for no reason. You were just a miserable human being. Hopefully, now, back then you were. I don't know about now, but... Yeah, Flameout posted quite a few analyses. I think it's because I used to play in GSC tours back then, like 2006, 2007. I was a somewhat active tour player. I gained a lot of respect when I beat Blackthorn. Blackthorn was one of the best GSC players in GameFAQs. They all expected me to lose. I actually won the set. Dragon Champion, the one and only Champion Lance, one of the all-time great Ubers players, posted a couple of threads here. RSE. I don't remember David where he came. Bill Tog was from Smogon. I know that he was. Little RSE. Let me click on this. YouTube. I played Ubers for a little bit. Wow, I remember using this moveset too when I played in Ubers tours in the German circuit. I wonder how this would hold up today. This EV spread, this moveset, is this what they're using today? It would be interesting because this was posted a very long time ago. But yeah, all right. This is not true. GGFan would reply, no, I would edit people's posts and just make fun of them. That's what I did. So like a troll from Smogon would come to the board and write, fuck you, GGFan, and I would just edit the post saying, Smogon sucks, or something like that. That's what I would do. I remember that. It was largely a GGFan echo chamber. I mean, most of the activity that took place here was in the tour section. And you can see like 9 threads, 24 threads. General board at 482, random things went here. 220 threads in the tournament forum. 86 for analyses. So you can see here, the majority of the activity took place here. The tournament section. Maybe Smogon likes to think that I spent all of my time and energy on them, because I've been living rent-free in their head for over 20 years for some reason. Maybe it's just because I never played there. I was able to make a name for myself on the outside. Historically, Smogon has always hated outside competition. For example, take Pokemon Perfect. At one time, this was the epicenter of old-gen play. Smogon would never refer to Pokemon Perfect's name specifically. They would refer to it as the RBY community. They didn't start calling it Pokemon Perfect until it became too apparent that the best RBY players frequented this organization, myself included. Yeah, I mean, also echo chamber. You know what? You know what I say to remarks like this? Everywhere you go on the internet is an echo chamber. We naturally gravitate towards people with whom we form some kind of common ground. So Smogon's not an echo chamber. Fox News isn't. CNN isn't. I don't call I wouldn't call like a small Discord that was like, let's just say there was a small Discord with like 100 people and it was just dedicated to making fun of me and saying how horrible I was for hurting their feelings 20 years before they were born for some silly things I did as a 14-year-old. I wouldn't call it an echo chamber. I think this is just kind of a dumb remark to make. The alternative temporarily died. I lashed out for attention. Now, I think I know what this is referring to. This person was a friend of mine, and at the time he did it because he thought I would find it humorous. Many years later, I confronted him and said he was an asshole for doing it, and he apologized. He apologized for doing it. This was just I think I know what this is referring to. But yeah, you could have just asked me. Like, I'm very easy to reach. I had an email address. I'm on Discord, various forums, and I presume this just glosses over everything I did everywhere I was. I had my website too. You claim you consulted my website. You would have known that I played on Pokemon Perfect. My website did it detailed everywhere I was. Let's see. Well, the player base did dwindle. People move on. I wasn't really, because the thing with the alternative was it was a small group of people. We all moved on. I was getting older. I was in college. Didn't have the free time that I did before, and that's it. We all moved on. I played primarily in the German circuit, and went to college, moved on in life. Well, that is the reason. The reason is we all grow older, we all move on. Sometimes we lose interest in our hobbies. Sometimes our hobbies don't become are not hobbies anymore. Interests dissipate. That's what happened. That's it. It's funny that I'm analyzing, what happened, the aftermath. Why did a small forum die? What happened? So and also this thread, maybe people think that I was angry that Smodrones wrote a thread about me at the Smogon. I still live rent free in Smogon's head. I consider it a compliment. It's a compliment to be reviled by random people for for silly things that transpired over 2 decades ago. Success is hatred is a form of success. I think this thread exemplifies that adage. Not really, man. I didn't really post there very much at all. Getting into slap fights online. It's not a speedrun. Okay, yeah. A notorious troll was one of the founding fathers of Pokemon speedrun. Make of that what you will. Because obviously I was the only guilty person. Everybody else was right. I was wrong. Nobody else did anything bad. Of course. I'm sure if people had access to GameFAQs back then, if they could see all of the content that was posted on GameFAQs back then, they would see that everybody was guilty in some form. Now, I obviously was no saint. I was trolling. I was having a good time, getting under people's skin, writing silly posts, as so many people do. There were people much older than me who really despised me, who made a sincere effort to vilify me, which is why we are where we are now on Reddit. More forums, more bans. I haven't been banned from a forum. Well, I got banned from Smogon the second time. Again, I will address that when the time comes. Again, I've had this account for almost 20 years. I had this account for a year. I had this account until the forum closed. I've had this account for 12 years. RBY2K10, I suicided. I didn't really like that forum to begin with. I had GGFan, I was GGFan and other smaller forums that long dead. So they typically follow the same pattern. Well, I headed to forum because they were bigger and more active than Smogon as competitive entities. And I know it hurts to hear that, for whatever reason, because Smogon is your universe. They typically follow the same pattern. GGFan would join under an alt. No, once again, I was GGFan here, I was GGFan there. I was GGFan everywhere I played. Old Gen Archives, I have posted many logs of the tournament sets and exhibition games that I played from 2005 to 2013. I was GGFan. The only time I wasn't GGFan was when I was on the Smogon server, because I couldn't go on that server as GGFan. They would ban me. But other than that, I was GGFan most of the time. older generations, GGFan. I didn't jump back in. I had always been active. RBY was dead for a bit because RBY 2K10 as a competitive entity wasn't very good. There were only a handful of tours. Some tours were canceled. They tried to do a money tour. It didn't work. They had to cancel that. RBY 2K10 is remembered mostly for, the technical analysis, the dissection of movesets and Pokemon. What should you do when you have Lapras out against Chansey? What should you do when you have Alakazam out against Tauros? Those kinds of things never really interested me that much. However, I was always interested in the competitive aspect of the Pokemon realm. But I was always around. It's just that there weren't many opportunities to play. I call that period the Dark Ages because there weren't many. There was definitely a dearth of tours from like 2011 to 2013. Now, when Pokemon Online implemented the ladder, this was about December of 2012. I jumped on that immediately. I was hooked on the ladder, had a lot of fun playing on it. Lutra was the owner of this community. He was recruiting all of the ladder players. I was number one on the ladder. He recruited me. I joined this fledgling organization, played there for half a decade. I redeemed myself. Unfortunately, again, it's the same thing. It's just the same narrative. I never read this thread because the Smodrone sheep say the same shit. It's just I had alts. I got banned everywhere. I was GGFan here. I was always GGFan here. My account, let me try to find it. I posted it somewhere. It's better to show than tell, I guess. Let me see. There he is, GGFan. So here I am. You can see I'm not banned. May 25th, 2013. I last logged in 4 years ago. I got some shiny medals. Got a star. People like my posts. I was quite active. There it is. I was there for 12 years as GGFan. You got banned from at least 2 other... No, I did not. Got his posting privileges. Received a ban. This person is just talking out of his ass at this point. You could have just asked me, but again, you don't want to ask me. You just want to post... You want to post slander. You think it annoys me. It really doesn't. This is entertaining. I'm happy to have a platform now to talk about this and debunk this nonsense. But here we are. GGFan get a chance of redemption after appealing his ban. Now, I had been banned from Smogon for almost 13 years by this point because I was seen by many, at least I was seen by the top Gen 1 players as one of the best. They wanted me unbanned so that I could participate in SPL, which is short for Smogon Premier League. There was a huge petition to lift my ridiculous embargo, and Smogon caved in and did it. They unbanned me. I played in SPL. I did pretty well. And, if I say it, I guess it is incredible to some people, but I was, for the most part, very popular. I think I had like 100 posts in a year, and my like count was something like 2,600, so I was averaging almost 100 likes per post. Make of that what you will, as you said. People were happy that I did well. I received so many messages. I loved your post. Hello, funniest person on Smogon. You did so well in SPL. Lavos, who was seen by many as the greatest Smogon player of all time, said I was the most dominant Gen 1 player that year in SPL. I took that as a big compliment. If Lavos is saying it, that means a lot. I did host an Ask Me Anything thread. They put it in the Hall of Fame. I don't know why. I mean, it was a humorous thread. I mean, I remember some of the German players made a cameo. We talked about the speed run, and then it was inexplicably closed. I guess maybe because the Smodrones who didn't like me because I hurt their feeling. Well, I didn't even hurt their feeling. This all took place on GameFAQs. It was a different forum, a different lifetime ago. It was inexplicably closed. I guess because they wanted me to get buried, and they wanted everybody to say horrible things about me, but it didn't go that way. In fact, a lot of people, I remember them being very friendly towards me, or just curious to know what had transpired in that time period. So it was closed. I don't know why they put in the Hall of Fame. A GGFan posting style. He no longer wrote troll posts, but long pseudo-intellectual proclaiming how great he was. So I think at that point, I was definitely a gimmick. Now this is something I'd like to dedicate a video to. Now this gimmick was also, it played a role in getting my ban lifted. Again, people loved these posts. I'll just say this. Over here in the Pokemon Perfect realm, there was a tour called the World Cup. And that's where I conceptualized this character. That being the embittered old man who was fed up with the corruption that had pervaded the Pokemon world. A team got caught cheating. Nobody was doing anything about it. So and someone called me GG Trash. That's where the catchphrase "swim in garbage," "swim in garbage," "oh you garbage," that's where that surfaced. So I was an embittered old man, and I had fun with it. A lot of creative posts. I mean, a lot of this was just me having fun, to be perfectly honest. I was having a good time. People liked the posts. Most of it was harmless. The only time I chastised people was when they tried to provoke me. They would say some really nasty things. They'd call me retarded or autistic, and I would respond I would respond in accordance with the gimmick that I had going on. And I think some of those posts were very inventive. The language was, I thought it was pretty good. I'd actually like to take a look at my old posts. I haven't done that in a lifetime. That'd be fun to do. Maybe in a future video, have a look. Well, man, I'm not the only one who's called people out on their immaturity. This has been an issue for a while. I'd say it's more than immaturity. Hypocrisy is the major thing. The double standards, egregious double standards. Despite his critique, he proved to be just as hot-headed. Now, again, I've said this a few times. My ban is something I'd like to discuss in a separate video. Or maybe just like the whole year I spent on Smogon. A video on this chapter, a video on that chapter. A prominent Smogon mod even discussed, this was Finchinator. Now, Finchinator claimed I had numerous infractions. I talked to 2 moderators at the time because I wanted to know what these infractions were, and they said, I can't find anything, you don't have a single infraction. This was bullshit. Finchinator, we all know he's a two-faced, lying, I won't say the rest, but he played a prominent role in the infamous Endgang server. He had quite the pornography addiction, spanned pornography, said the N-word multiple times, got off scot-free because he apologized profusely. Please don't, in his Kermit voice, please don't ban me. I didn't know what I was doing. I can't get banned from Smogon. I spend 60 hours a week on the site. Oh my god, it means so much to me. And Chaos is making all this money off my work. I do all this work for free because I love it so much. Please. So he begged for forgiveness. He got off scot. People don't talk about the Endgang anymore. It's been kind of swept under the rug. That deserves a whole documentary. The Super Bowl of Pokemon Discords. So Finchinator says something. I just laughed that off. Let's see. GGFan retreated. Well, it was the GGFan experience. I posted interviews, a couple of resources, some logs, war stories. I did write a book. It's in the description of this video. I was the greatest. I never said I was the greatest RBY player of all time. I think at one point, I was among the best. And I think that's a fair statement to make. Don't say that out of hubris. Nowadays, I'm not active. I wouldn't even dare to say I'm better than anybody. But again, this is just slander. Constantly innovating. I was very innovative, and other people have pointed that out. BKC referenced me in a couple of his old videos. Marco ASD has had nothing but positive things to say about me. Hitmon Lee watched my game specifically when he prepared for SPL the year he played. Rudolph 13 cited me as an inspiration the same year he dominated, because I was thinking outside the box and doing things differently. I have done very well. I don't know if I don't brag about it. It's just something I chronicled. And why not? Smogon does it. They have their medals. They have, their signatures contain a summary of all their accomplishments. But when I do it, it's horrible. It's arrogance, the sheer hubris of it. How dare he do that egomania? But when your Smogon player does it, it's okay. He states he's won over 50. I definitely, maybe 50. It's possible. I played for so long. He claims. I don't state. It just happened. Placed in the top 8. The records are there. Well, some of the records are there. A lot of them were lost to the exigencies of time. Many of these are small tournaments on his website. I never held tournaments on my website or small servers. The website was used for resources, small servers, never hosted tours. I've only ever had one server. I have Bull Arena now. Bull Arena is the original Smogon RBY server. I own it. I own Smogon's original server. That deserves its own video. Last year we hosted a money tour. There was a big money tournament. I participated in that. Made top 4 of a big money tour. A lot of Smogon players were in it. So there was that. For instance, he listed his win. I have no idea what he's talking about. At least when I criticize people, I tell the truth. Like, all they can do is lie and just say really dumb things. This is one step above the shitty 3-man tournament in my neighborhood where some kid bought level 250. Okay. Regardless of his skill, GGFan as the troll that was kicked out. Almost every RBY community ever joined. RBY 2K10, I left on my own volition. Bull Arena, I own the original RBY server. We've got a Discord with over 300 people, hosted a big money tour. What else was there? The alternative was mine, and this was an RBY community. We had analyses, we had tours. What else was there? I was ostracized from Smogon. I've been ostracized for over 20 years, but besides that, not really, man. But I'm happy that I've been living in your head rent-free. I wonder who this was on Smogon. This is clearly a Smogon person. Maybe this was Finchinator himself. He's referencing himself here. I wouldn't be surprised if this was Finchinator. So if it is, Kermit, I know that you beg for forgiveness not to be banned from a forum, your universe that you spend 60 hours a week on. I know you're a liar. You're a two-faced liar who cries on Twitter about equality and trans rights, when in reality you're a porn addict. You spam the N-word, and you were in the N-gang. It's not like ABR, I've heard conflicting things about ABR's involvement. Some have told me he didn't say anything. The leak I have suggests otherwise. Some told me he was very malicious. He spammed the N-word, encouraged people to dox. I've heard conflicting reports, but every person I've talked to, all of my connections, whenever I asked them about your involvement in the N Gang, you were among the most active in a very perverse way. So, I know that. And I think you should know that I know. So, fuck you. Search his name. Yeah, well, look, Smogon now is the epicenter of the Pokemon world, so that will happen. I'm okay with it. Doesn't bother me. This was very entertaining to do, by the way. I had the chance to talk about myself. Oh, arrogant, egotistical GGFan putting himself over. I just said the truth. I didn't brag about myself. I just talked about the things I did over the years, provided evidence that debunks your spurious claims, how I was banned everywhere, and blah, and I'm racist, and blah, blah, blah. GGFan claims, but is currently hyping up a new RBY board. I don't know what you're talking about. What are you talking about? What could this be? What could this be an allusion to? Because this is 2020. I did have a server. I had tour hosts, all Smogon people. I was hosting tours from Gens 1 to Gen 7. That's all I had. I don't know what you're talking about. So yeah, all you can do is lie, talk out of your ass. You can go back now and look at your porn, Kermit. Fuck you. So that's it. I've responded to this thread. Let's look at the posts. This is an awesome write-up. As someone who watched my 50 casual gaming, blah, 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 blah. Okay, whatever. He states he's won. Oh, yeah, I have over 673. They're all one player, but I didn't lose a single one. Okay, this is just like, this is mob mentality. It's fine. This is one of those, sounds funny on paper, but sounds terribly sad in practice. I mean, if there's anybody who would know anything about being a sad individual, it would be a Reddit lifer. So, this is just somebody projecting their own failures onto others. What sort of headspace? I never did that. Again, the alternative, it was made up of people from GameFAQs, the Net Battle Forum. A couple of them were from Smogon. It's a very fake tournament. Yeah, I mean, again, I feel like a lot of these people are plants. The funny thing is, their narrative is that I have alternate accounts, yet the things they do make me wonder how many of these people are real themselves. But yeah, I've explained my side of it. You can form your own judgment. You can think that everything I said is a lie. That's fine. All I can do is say my side and say my piece. I mean, how, and the thing is trolling, what have I said to be a troll in your eyes? Please point that out to me. Guy needs some serious therapy, says somebody who spends the entirety of his day on Reddit. I mean, nothing more needs to be said there. This reminds me of Forum, benign. Dude was self-aware enough to know his life had so little else going for it. Again, if there's anybody who would know about having no life, it's somebody on Reddit. This thread was posted 5 years ago. I've only decided to respond to it now because, quite frankly, I've just been really busy. These are just things that I'd like to say before I really just leave for good. I think I've had enough of this community, the Pokemon world. This is one of them. My case, it's family, blah, blah, blah. I don't think it's coincidental. Wilson and Bork. Guy had a lot of time on his hands and not many friends either. I mean, 157,000 comment karma. Holy shit. That's crazy. I mean, again, if somebody would know something about not having a lot of time on his hands, it'd be somebody who spends the entirety of his day on Reddit. That's insane. But yeah, again, when a Smogon person does it, it's okay. When they spend 80 hours a week making chaos money, that's okay. But I have no friends because I was a teenager having fun playing a game that I loved. You know, the speedrun, it's not like I dedicated my entire life to it. You know, I played a few times, got a good record, and I stopped. I haven't done a speedrun since. Assuming he wasn't scared of the age, I am in my 30s, yes. I don't know what to say. It is what it is. This is brilliant. This guy has been at it. At what? I mean, I play Pokemon. But in your head, you know, I've been a crusade, whatever. Oh God, the GameFAQs board, stupidest thing. How they got so great. Refuse anyone. Well, we just missed each other. I didn't know about this. Is actually kind of interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to keep it a secret, if they were discreet as to the existence of the simulator. The elitism then was really out of hand. Of all formats, I can understand the installer battling was super buggy. Well, it's the game I grew up on. And not just for me, but for a lot of people. The Gen 1 community today is quite active. I mean, RBY and GSC, I would say, are the least played old gens. GSC has always been the least played, but RBY has a niche following, you know. But it's the original. A lot of us grew up on it. It's a very fun, simple game to play. You don't need to worry about EVs. You know, only so many Pokemon are viable. You don't lose to bad team matchup most of the time like you do in later gens. It's very appealing to a lot of people in that regard. The following rant, okay, this is just complaining about mechanics. Boy, net battle, okay. Old Smogon, I mean, I wasn't really a part of it. I guess I was. I mean, but again, on the forums, I was not there. I got banned after making one post. I'm just wondering what are the specifics into his bans. Well, I explained it here. I vaguely remember, I'm sure you do, random Reddit person. I'm sure you do. Speaking of weird Pokemon trolls, Endgame, I think I know the name Endgame. Good write-up. Was there something I missed? I think I missed one. Focus energy. I just want to see if I missed anything. Because this will be my only response to this thread, obviously. It's one and done. I will never look at it again. Okay, there is more. He's probably the same guy who is obsessed with Goodra being a fee.male and spammed it all over the place. Let's see. Wow, suspended. I mean, you know that when Reddit rejects you, there's something wrong with you. I have no idea what this means. I don't think I want to know. I'm not curious to know any details about his fetishes, what he finds attractive. Don't need to know that. I never realized there was an active competitive scene. There is, and I guess there always will be. Okay, that's it. So I have finally responded to the Smodrone slander on Reddit. Had a good time. Explained my side. You can think that I'm full of shit. That's okay. I'm sure many people will. I hope you found this video insightful or at least somewhat entertaining or interesting. Have a great day.